Yo, what's up, guys? It's Redbird here, and we're here to break down the recent PvP video from New World. Now, needless to say, a lot of people are upset about this one, so, So, yeah, let's hop right in there, and let's see what they said. And yes, that was a Hello Kitty mug. Okay, I'm cultured. So live with in a house full of girls. All right. So, without further ado,
we've been getting a lot of great questions across social media, Reddit, the forums, about how New World has evolved over the past several months. We had our big announcement at the Game Awards, and people have been asking us a lot of
okay, important to keep in track. Over the last several months, so it took them, that's about the time frame that we have until beta. So again, feedback's very important, guys. Just want to point that out.
On how PvE, PvP works. Can you tell us a little bit about how New World has brought more PvE elements into the game?
Let me start with the previous alpha. When we were live, we watched players play, we played with players, and we learned a whole bunch. One of the things that we noticed was players were engaging in PvP, but a lot more players wanted more PvE content. They wanted more things they could solo. They wanted the ability to be directed through the world. They wanted more enemies. Our big focus has been around appeasing those players, putting more POIs in the game, increasing the density of POIs.
Okay, again, positive things that they're looking at player activity, they're looking at player feedback, and they're acting upon those. That is the sign of a good development group, people that really do care about versus like them pushing their artistic view out and saying like, we don't care who likes it or dislikes it, this is what we want to do. They are working with the community here, so it's important to keep that in mind also, before you get onto Twitter and flame everybody for every decision that they've made and that everything sucks. We just need to take a step back and provide constructive criticism. Constructive.
Increasing the complexity, putting more curation into the world, so as you're moving through the world difficulty grows, it ramps up accordingly to where you are. And along with that comes the loot that you get. We've added a lot more loot.
Loot is good
as you fight harder enemies. So all together, the game's going to feel a little more balanced between the PvP and PvE, probably leaning with a little bit more PvE focus.
Welcome, everybody, to the most controversial part of the video, and that is that they're changing the direction of New World into a more PvE-centered game. Now, a lot of people are upset about this, and understandably so. You just heard the devs say that now the game is more PvP, PvE-focused, leaning towards maybe even more PvE. And, again, the New World community as it is built up of a lot of people that were looking for an open-world sandbox PvP-type experience. And now they're afraid that they're no longer getting that. Now, was it good for them to listen to the people that wanted more PvE and kind of try to add more stuff into the game to help please them and provide, more experiences for them? Yes, that was great. That was a good job by the development team to listen to the community. But what I feel like they missed on was sacrificing the identity of the game to provide that to those certain player base. And, again, none of us have played the game to be able to talk about it at this point, so I think it's important for us to temper our expectations. Continuing to provide constructive feedback to the development team, remembering that these changes have been made from community feedback, and it's important for us to continue to provide that feedback to make sure that we all get a version of New World that we want to play.
Emphasis on the PvP side of the game. Players are concerned that some of that might be going away. What about PvP has changed in New World?
Our initial vision was a full PvP session, but we were trying to come up with ways to make it so that experienced high-level players wouldn't just PK, cheap kill like new players, so they wouldn't go attack wounded players. And everything we tried just kind of felt like a Band-Aid and didn't really solve the problem. So what we're thinking about now is giving both players that experience so everyone can come to a tournament and have a good time. So we put an opt-in system. We've added factions to the game, so you'll join a faction. And when you hit a certain level, you're allowed to opt into PvP. Anyone who opts in can engage in open world PvP. This also leads to wars, which is where PvP was its most fun in the last alpha. And we've put a lot.
This is a very interesting comment here because not everybody finds the large-scale combat fun. I'm one of those people that really do enjoy open world PvP, and not that I like to go around and gank people who are lobies or I like to kill people that have a lot of things in inventory and steal it from them. But I do like the idea that no matter where you're at or what you're doing, you can have an encounter. And there's nothing better in PvP games than when someone comes up and tries to gank you or thinks that they're going to kill you, and you flip that back on them and end up winning the fight. It's one of the most pleasurable things you can do in an MMO and PvP. And my fear is that moving in this direction is going to erase awesome moments like that. So let's continue.
A lot of work into making war more fun. We've added siege weapons, more defense. We've added more stages to the war. When you start to play this,
Okay, so they've added
this
things.
is how we really meant PvP to be.
Will it be possible
To the PvP, which is
engage
positive.
the New World and not touch PvP at all?
If you never want a PvP, you can absolutely avoid it.
Okay, this is fine, guys. Don't rage over this particular topic. There are people out there, if you can imagine, that don't share the same opinion as you. They don't want a PvP, but they want to play New World. They want to try it out. They want to live, experience the world and everything like that, guys. And it's fine, right? Those people need to have a place in the game too, whether they're crafters, whether they're people that, love harvesting or like base building, or maybe they want to be really heavily involved in a city, in a community, or in a faction or a company. There are people like that in MMOs, every MMOs, and they're the part of the success of successful MMOs are people like that get heavily engaged in your crafting and everything like that to provide the player-driven economy. So this is not negative. This is a very positive thing that they're supporting these type of people.
I believe that as players play through the PvE experience, they're going to eventually want to try it and get a taste for it when they get comfortable with the combat style and the gameplay. But it is absolutely a gameplay path that you can do it without ever playing in PvP.
So during the alpha, when players would come across another player, they would kill them, all your loot would drop, you would kind of go back to zero. What's the state of that in New World now?
So now for the open world opt-in PvP, the penalty is really time. The time it takes you to get back to where you were. We're not going to have you lose anything. We found that players found that crushing to not only get beat up, but to drop everything they had on them was a bit much. So we've softened the blow on that.
Okay.
The player winning the war, or winning the battle with another player, will still get some rewards.
So
Now, it remains to be seen what their current plans are for rewarding people for open world PvP contests, but I would argue that they do need to lean back towards the looting aspect. Now, it could just be that they lose maybe 10 to 20% of their items that they've gathered versus losing everything, but I do think it's important for them to lose something, because I also think it's important for them to provide significant reasons to flag. Maybe when you flag, you get double the amount of gathered material, or maybe you get double XP while you're flagged, and they're creating like that risk and reward type of thing that makes PvP so interesting and flagging so important to the game.
All of this stuff is totally attainable while you're playing PvE, but it adds more risk being flagged for PvP, so we want to make sure you have more reward.
So we talk a lot about large-scale PvP. Is it going to be more of a instance scenario, or is there going to be large-scale PvP in the open world?
I think both are going to be options. Our war, I wouldn't say it's instance, but it's 50v50, and no one else can enter the war. So once you're in this area, we shield everyone else out. In the
It's
open
another
world
thing
PvP,
that people are upset about.
Groups can absolutely form, and that could also end up being large scale. It just depends how organized people get.
Again, this raises a lot of alarm from the community, because the only PvP that seems to be like a significant part of the game is something that is instanced, that has to be 50v50, which is a lot of people to get, number one. Number two, it eliminates that small group feel, which a lot of people who like PvP enjoy. They like Zerg busting. They like, going against the odds or 1vxing. And this appears to be eliminating those prospects. And that is a big issue for the PvP community, which, again, if we're going back to other points made, is a large point of your initial community that was interested in the game.
The original alpha, we had a criminal system that players could, they would get flagged as a criminal, and there are penalties to that. How does that work into the current version of PvP?
Because you're opt-in, we really know there's no need for the criminal system. Where everyone's getting attacked has made that decision to get there, so we've removed the criminal system completely.
Now, given all the changes that they made, it does make sense for them to remove the criminal system, but I would have liked to see them keep that in and maybe just make the punishment harsher for PKing people that are lower level or that, you're just trying to harass, meaning maybe now they can no longer step foot inside of an organized territory without getting destroyed by guards and player characters, and make it like very lucrative for the punt down these people that are PKing and to kill them in order to, kind of set things right.
Does the way territory changes hands require PvP?
Absolutely. If you own a territory that I want, I have to get a group together, my company, and we're going to have to declare war on you. The winner of that war takes ownership of the
This is big, guys.
Territory. Other than at the very beginning, when all of the world, no one owns anything, it is impossible to get a territory without war.
So
now this is big because this is them now taking a step back and saying that PvP is still a huge part of the game, and that when territory changes hands, it's going to be through PvP. Now, I would suggest that, again, that we find a way to make open world PvP significant in this matter, because not everybody's going to be able to get 50v50 together, and a lot of people are going to want a small group into significant forms of PvP. And that's one thing that we need to provide constructive criticism on, is the fact that we want more significant ways to use open world PvP and small group PvP. And again, it's important to note that we don't know what small group PvP or open world PvP is going to look like right now, but it does seem that they are leaning towards the 50v50 battles to be the main way that territory changes hands.
In New World, will there be PvE dungeons and raids and those types of things?
They're not going to be like you traditionally would expect, where you get teleported to one. There will be bosses in the world that require groups to work together to overcome, similar to like world bosses. We may end up growing down the path of adding dungeons and raids. We talk about it a lot. Our bigger goal is to get what we have in front of players.
Yeah, that would be a mistake. Okay, now we've reached the point in the video where I would consider this hot button topic number 2. And it's where the dev team is kind of insinuating that they're trying to take New World, or considering taking New World, in the path of a theme park MMO, so to say. And I think that would be a huge mistake, because I think there are many unique situations that you can create in an open world feel that you can't get from instance dungeons. Example, so we go into a cave that has a boss at the end of the cave, but one of the things that you can't get from an instant type gameplay is maybe there's a group of gankers in the cave waiting for groups to come and try to get that boss loot. Now you have created a point of interest that people are going to want to go to, that again attract, number one, PvEers, people that want to go kill the boss, and number two, PvPers, people that want to take advantage of people going into that cave. And again, this creates epic moments in PvP and MMOs that you don't get with instance gameplay. And I would strongly suggest that if New World is going to add more content to the game, that it be these open world type feels that they talked about in the prior part of that clip.
New players who had no experience and no opportunities to explore what New World had to offer. What steps did we take to address that?
Well, the opt-in PvP system is a huge step toward that. You have to be in a faction to opt into PvP, and you have to be level 10 to join a faction. So the earliest you could ever even contemplate PvP is level 10. And I think most players will want to wait just a little beyond that and get it.
Yeah, okay, so that change was just a little bit unnecessary, I will say, being constructive. There's no reason to limit the PvP, especially if you're flagging. And again, there's no reason to make people join factions if you have to flag for PvP. So those are some two things that maybe they could take some steps back on, because again, flagging is like the ultimate killjoy for anybody who wants open world PvP. So taking steps past that to protect your PvE players is kind of unnecessary.
To get a little stronger foothold on how the combat and the gameplay works, there is no scenario where, as a new player, you wake up on the beach and have a spear get jammed in your throat. That won't happen.
One of the aspects of
again,
PvP
if you have to flag, that will never happen anyways.
PvP by appointment. What are some of the bonuses to having that?
Well, a big one is you don't get the group that logs in at 2 in the morning and comes and attacks your stuff when you're not there. So you can actually be present to defend it. It also allows companies that own land to set appointment times around when they play, right? So hey, we all get off work at 6, we're all home at 8.
Okay, so this may be a mixed topic, but I see this as a positive thing. You don't want people coming in when you're offline and raiding your territory or taking your territory away from you. I do like the scheduled appointment for these large battles, just for the fact that it gives you a chance to defend versus just, you know, I can only play 4 hours a day, but this other person can play 12, so of course they're going to own all the territory.
Every night ready to play. We want to go to war around 8 or 9 o'clock. Someone else might like work night shift, and they might want to find a group that has wars happen around 2 in the afternoon because that's more convenient for them. It allows more players to experience the feature around their schedule.
One thing I will say that's important is that it's important that they have to set limitations. Like, you have to select a window. Like, if maybe it's not every day you have to be open yourself to rating, but maybe there's a limit. Like, has to be like at least twice a week you have to open your territory up for rating, or else we'll choose for you, type of thing. Now, they go on throughout the video and kind of mention some rewards for backing early or playing in pre-alpha and everything, but that's basically it as far as like information goes towards PvP. And therefore, that about does it for the breakdown of the dev diary for PvP for New World. Let me know in the comments below. Redbird, hey, your ideas suck. Or Redbird, you can't English very well. All constructive criticism or unconstructive are warranted. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell for more New World content like this. Go over to studioloot.com where you can find all of the web-based content that me and my buddy Bordy are putting out for New World. And don't forget to follow me over on Twitch at twitch.tv /Redbird for live content as well. Not streaming New World yet, but I plan on it in the closed beta and into the live version. Again, thanks so much for watching, guys, and let's work together to provide constructive criticism and constructive feedback to the dev team to hopefully kind of restore that version of New World that a lot of us did want and hope for. We'll see you next time.